So we have a quick presentation here, which we've titled as COVID-19 Developments in Major Markets. Our objective here is to try and share this. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
There is somebody who's not on mute. Please make yourself on mute. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll just run through a few slides to give you an idea of what is happening in the markets. Yeah, go ahead, please. Next slide. Yeah, statistics, of course, is there. Top 10 markets we've identified. There is some key information that we have collected during the COVID period. And we also talked to a few buyers with whom we were in touch to get some idea in different parts of the world. Next, please. Of course, this is the data, which is not very encouraging. We've got figures till January, December. January figure came in, but that also is not very good because from February onwards, the COVID thing set in. So hardly any data is available to us, except for one or two markets. We were able to get till March. But then our own figures are available. What we had for the calendar year show that we are about $10.57 billion and we are down by about 7%. The major casualty in this time has been cotton yarn, which has been down by 25%. Fabrics has shown a growth of about 6% and cotton made up some more or less been at the same level of last year. Next, please. Of course, this is the top 10 markets, which account for about 62% of our total exports. You will see that there is a total decline of 7%, as we said. For the United States, there was a marginal increase of 1%. It accounts for about 25% of our exports. Bangladesh has gone down sharply by 15%. China, as we pointed out, has gone down by 33%. And they have shares of 10 and 7% respectively. Sri Lanka showed a good growth, and all other markets, unfortunately, have been showing a declining trend. So the top 10 markets which we've identified are about 61.59. Last year, they accounted for about 62.8, which means that some new markets have probably come in. This is what we'll see as we go along. Next, please. Now, for yarn, which is an important item, is about 30% of our exports. The exports went down by about 26% worldwide. And in fact, April, we have January, December, they were picking up a little in January. But unfortunately, after that, the COVID came in and we are virtually back to a sharp decline. Only Egypt showed some increase, and that also a margin of 0.8. But all other big markets that we have been dealing with have unfortunately showed a declining trend. Next, please. Fabrics, fabrics in a way surprisingly did well this year because they grew by 6%. Bangladesh showed a positive growth, even though on yarn they went down. They showed a positive in the fabrics. Lanka has been there. United States has also shown a good increase of about 10%. The only market where we declined was South Korea, which is a bit surprising, and UAE. All others, by and large, grew, which meant that there is an important segment that is waiting to tap, especially if you see Senegal, Sudan, and Gambia. These are Africa, and then Africa has shown good increase. Actually, the unexplored part of our markets. Hello? Yes, please. So, unexplored part of our markets are these African, which seems to be, showing good growth. And I think even the COVID impact has relatively been less from what we hear or read in the newspapers, or is getting underreported. Don't know really. But then there you are. Fabrics have a good market in Africa, apart from the traditional ones. Next, please. Made-ups were virtually stagnated. The US, which is the large market of 48% of our exports, showed a marginal or just about stagnated. All others except Australia grew. Spain has shown a good growth. And here again, Nigeria, although on a smaller base, has grown, and we have seen some export growth. So therefore, again, Africa, in some form or the other, in fabric and made-ups, seems to be emerging as an important direction for our destination for our exports. Next, please. Now, some of the major markets key highlights. The US, as you would all know, was the worst affected. We have all read about it. There is the retail sector is sharply down. The stores are closing. There are a lot of bankruptcies reported, and there are also people, Chapter 11 companies are going in. Payments are not coming. They are canceling orders. So, we have had this issue as far as this US is concerned. But US data for January, March, which we were able to get, shows about 616 million for made-ups, about 67 million for fabrics, and about 3.8 for yarn. It has always been a market for made-ups. The data is not here, but January, March, when you see the market itself crashed by about 10% during January, March, the US. In fact, China went down by 20%. And it is only India which seems to have grown in that, the mealy, by about 2 to 3%. So we have held our own even when the markets went down January, March in United States. The data will share separately for those who are interested. But that is an important point which has emerged, which means that even in a falling market, we are in a position to sort of get some businesses for ourselves and show export growth. Next, please. Now, EU market, again, EU like US is largely meant for home textiles and garments. And there again, because of the severity of the attack, especially in Italy, in Spain and UK and some of the other bigger countries, it has gone down. The chain stores have closed. There are at the moment no curfew restrictions, but still by the time they get into businesses, they are all taking some time. Some boutique shops and standalone stores are open, but they are also complaining that there's hardly any sales and that the rentals are involved, and to keep up the overheads, they're finding it difficult. And some importers we find are looking for extension of shipment. Discount stores are actively working. On the other hand, the report we got was some discount stores are actively looking for goods at low prices as the major retail departmental stores are closed. Now, again, the EU import during January, December, with a maximum of made-ups about 1.1 billion, and the yarns were 318 and 124 was for fabrics. But the export of cotton textiles during January, December, that is what is the data we have, is coming to about 8.87%. January 20 is there, sorry. So January 20 over January 19, the decline is about 8%. So again, the story is not very good from the EU market. I don't know whether Mr. Lat has joined us. Mr. Amit Lat, if you are there, kindly unmute.
Yes, I have joined. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Can you just quickly throw some light, sitting in where you are, on this on the EU market, so that our members can also benefit? Please go ahead.
The present situation is as follows in the European market. As we all know, gradually most of the European markets started lockdown in the second week of March. We need to remember, most of these importers, because it's a high season, Europe is manufacturing majorly for certain big stores for exports.
Yeah.
Raw material has been imported at high prices. Presently, there is a lot of overstocking. When we talk to clients at this stage, the situation is they are not able to pay the invoices even for the month of February, March, because the cash flows have deeply affected their pockets. Even there are situations where a lot of manufacturers have filed for Chapter 11. I will give you an example of between 15th March to 31st March, there were almost 48,000 companies in Poland. I'm not talking about in textiles. In general, by far, 48,000 companies have filed for Chapter 11 and bankruptcies. Now, that is a really worrying situation. Why? Because, we need to remember there is overstocking. Retail sales have gone down. What we see here is absolutely most of the major department stores, retailers are not buying. Today's priority is essentials. Essentials are being bought by people. And the prices what we are getting at the moment from India. So, most of these European traders and manufacturers are also under deep pressure in terms of pricing, because what product they have and what was the landing cost to what can be procured today is absolutely a difference of almost 20 to 30%. So most of these manufacturers are saying, why do we import something new? First, we need to get rid of those stocks. And when you get rid of those old stocks, you lose by 20 to 30%, and in some cases even up to 50%. So that will definitely going to affect majorly into cash flow for most of the manufacturers and importers.
So when do you think it's getting to be normal? Any normal business? Any idea?
Yes, there are companies who are looking into shipments, who are looking at opportunity of buying certain goods, to average out their pricing. But the most and the major part out here is going to be the cash flow, which is going to play an important role. Of course, the European government is offering funding, but textile is the least priority sector. We need to remember for the European government. They have automobiles, they have pharma, they have other industries, they have tourism, which has to be really taken care of at this stage. And textile is gradually affected, and it's interconnected. When you talk about home textiles, when the retailers are not working, you need to remember less of our linens are going to be sold, and towels are going to be sold. So gradually the consumption of what it was to what it is now, or the imports of ready product, is going to sharply decline. And that's what is our biggest worry as on date.
Okay, fine. Anyway, so let's hope for the best as we move along. So now I think we go on. Anything else you would like to add, Mr. Amit? Anyway, thank you for coming in and giving us a brief idea of what's really going on
Let me add here. I know that a lot of mills are holding on large stocks. There is a desperate selling. When I see the prices, it really surprises me to what it was to what it is as on date. And I know that the domestic market in India is not open. It's not doing well. And people really want to encash the opportunity, though they are in losses to comparison of what we do with the entire costing. But my only suggestion to all the exporters is we need to take a smart step here, a right decision, and not dump prices, because ultimately who are going to be the losers as exporters, and as India we are going to be losers, because if there are few exporters who are spoiling the market, then gradually the entire market will be disturbed.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think we'll now move on. The next one, please. Bangladesh. Ravi, would you like to take in? Ravi,
yes, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. This Bangladesh market, the manufacturing is almost back to normal. In fact, the lockdown was up to 5th May, but 26th April onwards, factories started gradually opening up. And this bilateral trade between Bangladesh and India, that's a big issue now. A lot of representations from us to the government to open the Petropol border to truck movement. Initially, there was a notification to offload and unload on between the two borders at no man's land. It operated for one day, and then again it got stuck because of too many people were crowding at the transfer point. We are still representing, and the government is clearing and stopping, and we hope things should improve in the next day, 1 or 2 days. And
on this we have just Ravi, sir, on this Petropol thing, it opened and again shut down. And the reason was that because there is some local issue which is going on. And I also had occasion to speak to the person in charge in the Petropol border. He said, look, he did his best and government is doing its best. But that now, as of now, as it stands today, unfortunately, the movement is blocked. So we have represented right across to almost everybody. And I think there is some local political issue with the political party, etc. So anyhow, Petropol is not under discussion in that sense, but we are really clued in on this, and we are doing whatever we can in terms of our representation, telephone calls. We've spoken to the Indian High Commission in Bangladesh. In fact, they would have joined us in today's meeting, but unfortunately, they are not supposed to come on Zoom. They are supposed to come on other platforms. Maybe next time we will probably get him also on the line. But right now, the situation is like this. So it is a situation where for some reason, the Petropol border has not really opened up. But we are hopeful that in the next couple of days, I think it will clear up. Thank you. Go ahead, Ravi.
Bangladesh, the textile trade is allowed only against back-to-back LC. So, because their orders for the finished garments are getting cancelled, it is backfiring on our Indian yarn supplies also. We can expect the market to be slow for the next couple of months. Hopefully things will improve shortly. Bangladesh is like a $1 billion business for Indian export of cotton textiles, mostly yarn and fabrics. And the orders are bound to come back to Bangladesh because of China. A lot of people are looking for alternate supply to China. Things are improving. Next slide, please.
Next, please. China.
China is the first country to come back to normal production. As of now, less than 50% production capacity is being utilized in the textile industry. They say some 35 to 40% of spinning and weaving are working or running. The demand for PPE products like a mask and overalls are or exorbitant, and the Chinese are fully loaded with the orders. And the Chinese ports, the air shipment ports, air shipment is all, the PP products are mostly by air shipment. And air cargo complex is completely choked all over the Chinese airports. They say 72 hours of waiting time for trucks to enter into the customs zone. They wait on the road to enter into that much of backlog is there. So only 10% of the cargo capacity is given for the other commodities, other products. And therefore there is a sharp increase in air freight cost also. And loading, unloading costs also they increased by 10 times in the major ports and major airports in Chinese. The goods train that is operating from China to Europe, up to London and up to Germany is all operational, and they started ferrying the goods. And the Chinese have got their own warehousing facilities in Europe. It is told that they move the goods stock in Europe, and the moment the European market open up, they will be flooded with Chinese products. Not only textiles, for all the products. And China is in the recently, because of this problem, there are a lot of discussion about Japanese disinvestment or pulling out of Chinese manufacturing or manufacturing in China. Japanese government has announced a package of $2.2 billion for relocating from China. But we do not know how far it's going to be practically possible, because a lot of Japanese companies have given know-how, technology, they imported skill to the laborers to suit the Japanese standard. Hundreds of factories, textile factories in Japan are all invested by the Japanese. In China were invested by Japanese. Like Lutai Textiles, a 5% market holding is Japanese investor. They take care of the marketing as well. So if they pull out from China, it is be extremely difficult for both the countries. The pullout may happen only if the Japanese companies are fully patriotic and they want to get out of China for that once for all.
Okay, next one.
Next slide, please.
Latin America. Latin America, Ravi.
Yes, sir. I just jotted down some points here. So now between trade between India and China, the couple of things. One is the problem of e-APTA certificate that we have been trying to sort it out, but there is a lot of miscommunication between government to government. Chinese ports, some ports are accepting, some ports are not accepting e-APTA, and we are putting a lot of pressure through the Ministry of Commerce as well as the Indian Embassy in Beijing and Indian Consulate in Shanghai. And the Indian Embassy Beijing has given some guidelines, but it seems that that also is not working out. Indian Consulate in Shanghai is trying to clear one or two consignment as a trial basis with the e-APTA. They are in contact with the customs officials in Shanghai. And once the goods arrives and our companies, they present the certificate, it will be sorted out, in Shanghai at least. But other ports, it is still a big issue. And we had a webinar with the Consul General of India in Shanghai sometime back, just before the shutdown happened. He made it clear that whatever business with China, the attitude of the Chinese is changing. They try to squeeze from the suppliers, and the past relationship with the Chinese customers has got nothing to do with the present order or future relationship. So we cannot bank on the past relationship with any buyers in China. Next slide, please. So we've been in contact with the Indian Embassy in Peru. The lockdown is started from 16th March, and it will be next week they are going to open up. They are going to give priority to the textile sector. Textile is considered one of the priority sector for reopening. However, strict COVID measures will be there. And Peru, they say the local manufacturing companies are also losing orders to USA and Europe. Mostly they depend on garment export, value-added knit garments export to USA and Peru. So they also losing orders in those countries, and there are a lot of payment receivables issue in Peru. and they are also struggling. And in turn, they are trying to cancel the whatever yarn shipments high seas or landed. They're delaying clearing at the customs and all those things. So we are in constant touch with our Indian embassy in Peru, and we are getting update almost like alternate days. We are pursuing that. Peru is like a $230 million business a year, mostly yarns and denims. So denim business will sustain, but yarn business will slow down. And Colombia, we have been we are in contact with the embassy and also some of the importers in Colombia. So 11th May, they are in lockdown, and later on they're opening up. They also give priority for labor-intensive textile factories, and mayor of each city has got a discretionary power to partially open the manufacturing operations. So whatever urgent shipments and the PPE related products, they are allowing without any restrictions. And again, there is also the companies are complaining that there is a large-scale cancellation of orders to USA and the payment issues. Colombia is approximately $200 billion business per year, mostly yarn and denim fabrics. And also they buy yarn dye checks and shirting fabrics. Now, denim, they also say the denim fabrics and the high-end or value-added yarns, the orders will continue. The basic varieties, they are going to slow down. That's the feedback we are getting. Next, please.
I think now we come in. Shailesh, would you start? And has
Yeah.
Prashantji joined in? Prashantji and
Yeah, Prashant has joined in, I think.
Takashi?
Prashant?
I'm here. Yeah.
Very good,
Good
sir.
afternoon, everyone.
Nice to see you, Prashantji. I will ask Shailesh to start, and then after that, you and Mr. Takashai, if he's there, can also give your comments. And members are quite interested in knowing about what's happening in Japan, you know, because of
Yes.
the what they have said, and some of our members would also like to intervene. So we may also have to answer some questions. First, let Shailesh finish it. Shailesh, you quickly run.
Yeah, I'll just, so Japan is one of the very few countries that has picked up the pieces and has done very well during this lockdown period. And they have now all their business activities, everything is functioning as normal. All their malls are open, their facilities are open. So they have come back to normalcy very quickly. In fact, for all the effect that the COVID has had on the industry, the government has been very benevolent in giving an emergency package to the tune of roughly about 117.1 trillion yen, which works out to almost 1,100 billion US dollars. And this will go towards, firstly, they will provide 100,000 yen to each citizen. That is, every household per person will get about 100,000 yen. That is about 950 US dollars. So if there are 3 people in the house, then there will be 300,000 yen. So each person will get about $950. Further, they are going to give free loans, which do not need to be returned at all. And this is basically to help the small and medium enterprise companies in Japan. So this is basically $19,000 that they would be giving to these companies, which is absolutely free. And further, they have also looked at companies which have not done well in this first 4 months of the year compared to the last 4 months. So in case if your turnover is less in these 4 months of this year over the last year, then the government is giving them interest-free loans, which can be returned in a duration of maybe 6 to 7 years. So this is the kind of push that they are and the help that they are giving to their industry totally. Now, coming to a point which was made that Japan is going to relocate from China and they are going to pull out all their factories. In fact, at a recent webinar which was done this week, along with the ambassador of India in Japan, he says that it is not going to be so easy that Japan will just move from there, because we all know how sensitive Japan is when it comes to placing orders and the time that is taken from actually placing an order. So everything of theirs is basically on trust and loyalty. So they have developed such a strong supply chain integration with China that it is going to be practically not possible that they will move entirely. But what they might probably do is that certain diversification will take place in all the industries that they have made investments in, where they can move some part of it to other places so that they don't put all their eggs in one basket. And mostly the countries that will benefit is the ASEAN countries, primarily Vietnam and Thailand. And India could be a potential benefactor also, depending upon the goods in which they want to diversify. So I would like to now ask Prashant and Mr. Takashi if they can add something more to this particular market.
Yeah, thank you, Shailesh, for the scenario in Japan. So yeah, it's almost the same which we discussed here last week. So yeah, right now the lockdown is extended until May 31st. Not lockdown, but emergency. So all malls and stores are open, but it's on limitation. Like people cannot go out and do high purchasing. So in terms of Japan-India bilateral trade is almost stopped because Indian factories are not working. So Japanese buyers are looking for Indian orders, but it's automatically they have stopped. And many wholesalers, some of them have cancelled the orders from India, and most of them they want to retain the orders for next season. So say we were talking to wholesalers in Japan, so they were saying ki 40% orders they will retain the stocks, whatever they have, they will use it, and 60% they will keep. They will have a new orders. So there is still chance of 60% orders to most of the countries, and yeah. So as Shailesh explained, 100,000 yen will be given to all individuals and 0% loan without collateral to all SMEs. So somehow SMEs will survive with this government support. And my colleague Takashi will speak on this. Hello?
Yeah, hello. Yes, go ahead. Welcome. Mr. Takashi, please go ahead.
Yes. The actual condition is very tough in Japan at the moment because the corona is very influenced to the Japanese market, so that the demand is very decreased in the market. So according to your information, Japan is no problem, but I don't think so. It takes a time to recover the Japanese market. So we have to see Japanese production conditions. Also, we have to see the retail condition, because the department store, also the specializing store or supermarket will be closed, up to the end of maybe the end of the May. So the business will be slow at the moment. It takes a time to recover. That means the buyer, they don't want to order to India, even if China, they cannot do that, So I think at the moment, India locked down, so you cannot export to the Japanese market. So maybe next season, that means the following winter, we will have a chance, but we don't know exactly condition at the moment, But we have another chance to develop to some, accessory company, just like Nitori or Muji, also the Kind, also the so many Conan, so many fashion one, that means the clothing one, sheet and cover one. We have another opportunity. So we are better concentrate on such kind of field. So this is my announcement. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Takashi. But
regarding
what is your...
Okay.
Yeah. Regarding
Can we intervene and ask some questions?
Regarding pulling out Japanese company from China, so as said, it is very difficult because Japan has developed, some factories with their technology, and they have invested a lot in China. So what they are eyeing at Uniqlo, if Uniqlo succeed in India, then there are chances that some companies might ship to India from China.
Okay, thank you. I think, sir, we'll just finish off the presentation. Then we can take up the discussion, sir, in one go. If that's okay. Next, yeah, Vietnam, come on.
Okay. So Vietnam is a very significant market in the ASEAN region. In fact, their supply chain also was disrupted when China went into the COVID-19 situation, and almost 100% of their garment enterprises were affected by this. In fact, this is one of the few countries where now in the past 2 weeks, they have not reported any significant or any new COVID cases. So which is very good. And they are slowly now, they were working at a staggered work shift. They are slowly now getting back into working an entire shift without any issues. So during this time, most of their garment manufacturing companies were into making masks and PPE kind of stuff, because there were no orders forthcoming, and so they had to ensure both domestic demand before they could export anything from there in terms of the PPE. Now it is said that due to this, they might look at sourcing raw materials from India also, and not depend on Chinese suppliers only. So at the ports, it has been said we got this through the Embassy of India in Hanoi. So they had mentioned that the containers are permitted to be at the ports free of charge for 5 days, and after which there will be demurrages and storage charges. In fact, we also received some complaints from our member exporters where they had to pay demurrages because they could not clear the goods because of the because they could not submit the original documents. And we made a representation both through the CGI office in Ho Chi Minh City, as well as the Embassy of India in Hanoi, and as well as the Ministry of Commerce here in India, so that the member exporters do not face this problem. And we are in touch with the CGI office in HCMC very regularly, and they have said that the papers have started moving, and hopefully we should be hearing about this very soon. So the Vietnamese government has also supported the industries by providing tax breaks and delaying their tax payments, etc. They have got extensions of roughly about 5 months on these deadlines. So they have also tried to do their best in helping the industry. As far as the trade is there, for the first last year that was there, the Jan-December 20 figures over Jan-December 19, there was a decline in cotton textiles roughly by about 23%. So hopefully we should be looking at a bleak outlook even this year, but let's hope for the best.
Okay, thanks. Egypt, yeah, Egypt also
coming to the Egypt market. So Egypt market, we were in touch with the Embassy of India in Cairo, and they have said that everything is functioning very normally there. The movement of cargo, the ports, the banks, everyone is working smoothly. Although there is a curfew hours that from 9 p.m. to 6 p.m. there is absolutely no movement of anything. And they also have no waiver as such, what we were asking for from various embassies, whether, in this condition, when the containers are taking long, when they're lying at the port for longer duration. So they mentioned that there is no waiver, as during the other times in the day, everything is working smoothly. So in terms of any specific packages, they have not given anything to the industry, but directly, but indirectly, they are trying to fast track the release of export subsidies for EOUs. And they have also allowed the sale of goods in the local market, which was capped at 5% earlier. They have increased it to 50%, of their production for this particular period. So Egypt is a very significant market for us in terms of yarns. Last year, Egypt imported roughly about 177 million. But for Jan to December 19 over Jan to December 18, the cotton textiles was down by just a marginal 1.13%. Now coming to a Central American market, Guatemala is part of the Central American group of countries, and they are also a part of the Central America Free Trade Agreement with the US called the CAFTA-DR. So since US was down, the Guatemalese also could not export anything to the US. So they have been more or less importing everything to do with the COVID-related item, masks and PPEs. So they also have, their market is just open from 4 a.m. to 6 p.m. only. So within that, they are trying to operate. Other aspects of working is very normal. They are not facing any issues. Their courier services, everything is working. And there is no financial support in terms of a financial stimulus given to the people there. So this is all regarding Guatemala. I would now request Ravi Kumar to take over the South Korea market.
South Korea, yeah, Ravi Kumar, please go ahead.
Good afternoon to all of you. And as we all know that South Korea, this is one country that is appreciated by the world in terms of containing the COVID-19 situation, because when they saw that the situation in Wuhan, they expected it, anticipated it much in advance, and had very good preparatory steps in place. And today, while we are talking, South Korea has almost come out of that COVID-19 situation, and the business is as usual, almost 90% as usual. And most of the people are back to work, and banks, ports, transportations are functioning as per the confirmation given to us by the Indian embassy in Seoul. However, the importers of textiles in South Korea, they are yet to begin importing because substantially they export textiles and clothing to the US market and EU. So the buyers in South Korea are having a look at US and monitoring the situation there in US and EU before they start. However, the exporters from India, our advice is, and this is what the Indian embassy is suggesting, and also the various associations in South Korea with whom we are in touch, they say that the Indian exporters should start their negotiations, start discussing business with South Korea, and this is the right time. And among the participants today, I'm sure many of you are keen to enter the South Korean market because we get a lot of queries as far as this market is concerned. Very briefly, let me tell you that South Korea is one market that needs to be evaluated by the exporters, number one. Number two, South Korea has been traditionally buying from China. But now the buyers in South Korea, they want an alternative to China and they are keenly looking forward towards India. And also the awareness of one of the major obstacle was the awareness in South Korea about the Indian textile industry was very low. Since the last 4-5 years, Texprosil have gone to South Korea with delegations and they participated in exhibitions. Now the awareness of the buyers in South Korea about the Indian textile and their capability to supply high quality product is very high. So therefore we need to capitalize. And also there is under the South Korea, India, there is an FTA. Under that FTA, the import duties on fabrics exported from India to South Korea and also made ups from India to South Korea, it is zero customs duty. So this is one area that needs to be capitalized. And among other, there is good potential to export cotton yarn, fabrics, and made up. But let me make a special reference that exporters from India should evaluate possibilities of exporting gray fabrics for home textiles. The South Korean buyers are keenly looking forward towards buying from India. And as far as the normalcy in South Korea is concerned, let me tell you that they have conducted an exhibition that is Construction Expo, which started yesterday, that is May 8, and it is going to continue till 11 in the city of Seoul. So that shows the normalcy that has come to South Korea. Now, before I further talk, I would request Mr. Manoj Patodia ji, chairman, because he has been actively involved in South Korea. Can you make some comments, sir, if you're there?
I think, hello.
Manoj Patodia ji is not there.
I think he will.
Sir, can you please add, sir?
Manoj ji, I think we'll quickly run through the presentation.
Yeah, well, let's run through presentation. We'll do it at last. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
sir.
yeah.
Next, please. Next.
Next. See, yeah, Turkey. Now, Turkey also is an important market for India. And there also, there had been lockdown, but now they are slowly opening up. Now, in fact, the lockdown is restricted on weekends only. And the factories have started functioning, of course, not to the full level, but yes, partially they have started functioning. Ports, customs, and banks, they are also functioning almost normalcy is there. This is confirmed by the Consul General Office from Turkey. So that area is under control. And in fact, buyers in Turkey have already started placing orders with the Indian exporters for synthetic yarn, cotton yarn, blended yarn. They have already started. But they are advising our exporters to plan their shipment in such a way that the goods reach after 25 or 30 days from now, so that they expect the situation to be normal, fully normal. But one development is there, unfortunate development, I would say. Recently, that's on April 20, Turkey has imposed additional duties on import of cotton yarn, fabrics, made-ups, and garments. Now, these additional duties have been imposed on all imports except from EU and from those countries with whom Turkey has got an FTA. Now, these duties are 8 to 12% in the case of cotton yarn. It is about 25% in the case of fabrics and made-ups and 35% in the case of garments. Of course, fabric, there was already a duty of 20% earlier that has been increased to 25%. This will be applicable on all shipments from April 20 till September 30. However, if some shipments have been effected before April 30, and if it could reach within 30 days of the date of notification, that is April 20, then these duties will not be applicable. Anything reaching Turkey before that will attract the duty. Sailesh, can you bring that Turkey? So this duty will continue till 30th, and we hope that we have taken up the Indian Embassy Consul General Office is in touch for the removal of this duty. But any which way, considering the situation, the more shipments are not likely to take place. We hope that beyond September 2020, at least, these duties are removed. Next.
Yeah, only point that need to be noted here is that, actually, just go back in the Turkish market, January, February 2020, the increase was by 25%. In fact, there was a bit of a buoyancy in that market. But now with COVID and others coming in, and they have now erected their barriers. So, but I suppose, as has been pointed out, we should try and pitch for shipments reaching after September. And one can see some potential for exports in Turkish market. The only thing I hope they roll back some of the duties that they have put. Yeah, let's come to Iran now. Yes, Ravi Kumar.
Iran. As we all know, Iran was one country that was very badly affected by COVID-19, like China, of course. And it took some time for Iran to come back to normalcy. But what we are getting to know from the associations and from Iran, and also from the Indian Embassy in Iran and Iran Chamber of Commerce, is that now Iran is coming slowly back to normal. In fact, it is almost normal now. And the banks and ports, their customs are functioning, and banks are also functioning. Transportation, no problem. Factories have started with about 50 to 60% capacity, like we have here in India. So most of the factories, textile factories, have started functioning, so 50 to 60%. And the buyers in Iran, they are, as usual, they are keen to buy the textile products from India. But there is a huge challenge because of the US sanction. The US sanction on Iran has included textiles. So the last date for till which the shipments were allowed to Iran under sanction was April 8. And after that, no shipments can be made because it will come under the sanction. And even the rupee payment mechanism of UCO Bank and IDBF, they've suspended for textile exports to Iran. But buyers in Iran, they are negotiating because they are keen to buy Indian products. So they are reportedly discussing for export business with Indian suppliers for shipment to other countries like Dubai, Turkey, or UK. But this will be an individual discussion of the buyers with the Indian exporters. So we would advise that exercise little caution while discussing business with Iran still. And there are reports coming from Iran that the US sanction might exclude textiles in the days to come as a measure under this COVID-19, but till now situation is uncertain. So we need to wait and watch. And among all these countries that we are talking about, these three countries, what we would suggest is, and this is a suggestion that is coming from the sources in these countries, that while you negotiate export business, do not accept any export order that will need an immediate shipment. And you should accept orders for and take some delivery time a bit more, because we know that even customs and other facilities in India are only partially operating. So therefore, urgent shipments might become difficult. And that's all from me for Iran market. Sir, please.
Right. Okay. Now Sri Lanka, Rajesh, can you come in now?
Good afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. As has been reported at the start of this presentation, despite placing good orders from Sri Lanka, the restrictions have led to a lot of problems, which are infrastructural issues like congestion of goods. Port operations initially remained suspended on account of non-availability of staff and exhausted warehouse capacities. The banks are reportedly working, but intermittent curfews in various parts of the city has led to limited working hours and delays in clearances. Also, air freight was suspended due to flight inavailability on account of Colombo airport closure by government. And also, there are reported difficulties in document submission for custom clearances. Sri Lanka, as we can see from the data, it imports from India were placed to 52.79 million fabrics and yarns to the tune of 14.45 million. And cotton textiles, unfortunately, have reported decline 1.55% from 69 million to 68 million. Next one, please. Shailesh.
Yeah,
Now
Russia.
coming to Russian
Go ahead.
market, the situation is worked. There is a stricter lockdown that has been imposed by the government, and it has become the seventh most affected country. And the particular lockdown, which started March 28, has been now extended to May 11. On the domestic front, we got reports that Russian retail has been closed and all the non-essential activities have been suspended. Of course, the package announced by Putin government, as we can see, $160 per month, but people don't find it because it is just about 2 to 3% of the GDP as compared to other European counterparts. Government has also granted a 6-month deferment for the individuals on insurance premiums, taxes, except for VAT, and also for SMEs with repayment of accumulated debts in monthly installments. Also, it has ordered, the government has been ordered to list companies that are systematically important to the Russian economy and which would then be given some direct benefits, but the direct benefits are seen to be forthcoming only till maybe the June start or later than that. Russia has negligible imports to the tune of 2% or 2 million of made-ups, and the imports of cotton textiles have seen growth because since the borders have been sealed, some kind of growth has been seen on those particular counters. Next one, please. Then coming to Uzbekistan, which is practically a landlocked market, and lot of trade is carried by air. Most of the enterprises, but positively being located outside the capital and regional centers, they continue to work. And there are export problems because majorly this market is depend on Russia, China, and Turkey with lot of restrictions. As per the President Decree of March 19, the funds for implementation of most of the infrastructure projects should be directed to creation of new production facilities like textiles, the priority sectors they have taken up, which will help them create jobs. And surprisingly, the additional production of mass has begun. The figures suggest 500,000 to 2.5 billion in a day leap that has been seen. So additional capacities have been fully utilized. However, exports of mask and safety items are prohibited. As we can see, there is a negligible import of 2.28 million coming from this Uzbekistan market. And of course, import of cotton textiles is seeing growth as reportedly in the CIS, the intra trade has somehow been restricted. So people are looking for outside counters. To you, Mr. Rajgopal.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we covered quickly. Our team went and talked to a lot of people and the presentation they gave back. Simultaneously, we also looked at some feedback. So we got some feedback. We contacted some buyers. Sri Lankan buyers are saying lockdown to be released slowly as is being reported. Offices are operating at 50% capacity. They are also facing cancellation of orders from US and EU. In fact, some companies are receiving new orders, but very small quantity. All of them are faced with this issue of cancellation from US and EU, which even in India we are facing. Then you come to Turkey. Many of factories are partially or fully closed, as was reported just now. Now they have also allowed some relief in terms of postponements of tax and insurance payments. They have also increased the import tax, as was reported just now. There is a full lockdown during weekends and partial lockdown for ages under 20 to 65 until May 27th. But I suppose in the process of review, and this is under constant review, and they probably are looking to relax these conditions. Thailand, we spoke. Before May 3rd, the government announced closure of all entertainment places, department stores with restaurants only serving take home and home delivery. as is happening in India also. From May 3, restaurants and saloon shops and some of these were opened with some discipline. But department stores are still not open. They expect to open by mid-May. And all of them are saddled with a lot of inventory, and they will have to first get rid of those inventories before they start looking at new buying. Bangladesh buyer reported it is very, very slow. In fact, the Bangladeshi garment industry, as we saw in many videos that got posted, are highly disturbed because Europe is virtually shut down for them. But they are expecting to come back to normalcy. April 26th was one date given. Now May 20th is the other one, which is likely. But hopefully they are building up and slowly the factories are coming into operation, but still at half the capacity. And finally, we also got from Kenya, one of the leading buyers of home textiles and hotel linen. He said that it's not so hard in Africa as compared to US and EU. They expect business to get normal in a few weeks with some health measures. And most of the importers are looking to avoid China. This is a general feeling we've got. There is a lot of apprehension and a lot of resentment with the Chinese for obvious reasons. And they will look at India as one of the sources. So we really hope as and when it becomes a little normal, we will be in a position to sort of build our relationships with all these buyers right across the world. Now, this is what we come back to the end of the formal presentation. We will look at some questions, sir. We'll invite some of our esteemed members to say a few words. May I ask Mr. Malik to come in because he had some questions on Japan. Mr. Malik, please.
Yeah, Siddharth, I think it has been a...
Yes, please. Can you unmute yourself, please? Mr. Malik?
I think we lost him. Oh, okay.
We lost
Are
him.
you able to hear me?
Now we can hear you, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. What I was saying is that basically the information and the data presented by you is very informative, very good. What is the take is basically that we have to, while we have to protect our major markets, it will take longer time, both Europe and America, but we have to really look at Africa, we have to look at Latin America, the South America, and the other markets which are promising. But at the same time, as a major market, which has already announced its intention to move out of China, is Japan, right?
Yeah.
And Japan was importing roughly about 90% of its requirement from China.
Yes.
Which was roughly about tune of over $30 billion.
Yes.
So it gives a very large opportunity. And since Japan and India have a 0 for 0 treaty also, we have a FTA arrangement with them.
Yes.
Which also goes in our favor.
Yeah.
Now, question is, how do we take advantage of this situation? And I'll ask some questions to our friends who are from Japan, that how do we really, as a association and as companies, we should know who are the basically major importing companies or the major brands who are importing out of China, so that we people can, as an association or as a country, can get in touch with them. Two, whether there is any opportunity in terms of collaboration and joint ventures, if that's possible. That's the second question. The third, of course, is the kind of the products that they were importing out of China and which they would like now to outsource from other countries, including India. So if we can hear something on that account.
Yes, surely, sir. Prashant Sahab, are you there? Prashant ji? Mr. Prashant? Mr. Prashant, are you there?
Yes,
sir, just unmute. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Can you come in quickly on the points raised by Mr. Malik?
Yes. We have a big opportunity to get order from Japan because, you know, Japanese income is very high. Also, the Japanese population is so many population. And then Japanese demand is very, very big. Also, the potentiality is huge. So we are better concentrate on produce in India to export to the Japanese market. You know, we have so many the agents. Also, we have so many trading companies. So we are better concentrate to Japanese market. I know well so many Japanese agents, also the wholesaler, also the retailer, also the so many apparel companies. So I'd like to introduce such kind of company to get an order from the India. This is my intention, you know.
Thank you,
So-
Mr. Takashai. We will
That-
look forward to getting some
that-
names, a list of people who might be interested, because we are now very keen to develop this Indo-Japan trade. And as I point out, there is no duty, there is 0 for 0. So we would like to
Yes,
work
yes, sir.
closely with associations like yours and also with individual companies, trading bodies, so that we can take this forward. We're very keen to work, and our companies would also look how to get into joint ventures, how to look for importing, how to try and develop trade. I know all of us are looking at the experience of Uniqlo. Now, if
Yeah.
Uniqlo succeeds, then there are many people who will come. And I'm sure Uniqlo will succeed, because a lot of effort is going on here to see that
Yeah.
Uniqlo succeeds in India. So they will
Yeah.
succeed, but we should also build the momentum. That is what is being suggested by our members. So we look forward to getting some more information. We'll be in touch with you, Mr. Prashant and Mr. Takashai, so that we get more information and build on this. Now, as far
I'll
as
give
your
you
query,
more information, you know.
sure.
Yeah. Yes.
On your requirement about PPE
Joint
fabrics for
adventure
masks,
too. Yes, yes.
for
I'm
masks,
sorry, I quite agree with your opinion.
just let me complete. Masks, it at the moment banned from India. There's a lot of demand from all over the world, but somehow we are trying to work with the government to see that they allow some portion of this export. So we'll see how it develops. Okay.
Instead
very
of
much.
China, you know, we have a good chance, good opportunity to get an order
Yes.
from
Yes.
the Japanese buyer. So we
Yes.
are better concentrate on the Japanese market. You know,
Absolutely.
concentrate on the Indian power to Japanese market. This is my
Sure.
intention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, I think Ashish ji, would you like to say something? Ashish Bagrodia, Mr. Ashish
Yes.
Bagrodia?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Siddharth, thank you. I heard about the efforts being made regarding the opening of the Petrapol border. I'd just like to make a point here.
Yeah.
I'll just like to make a point here. You know, Bangladesh opened factories on 26th, and thereafter, a lot of orders are being received from Bangladesh. And most of the orders that are being received right now are all fast track orders that need to be, you know, immediately delivered.
Yeah.
And if we continue to have this problem at the Bangladesh border, you know, it's going to be totally disastrous. Of whatever recovery we expect, that will also become, you know, closed. So I know you are making all efforts, but we just need to keep this pressure on the government.
Sure, sir.
Thank you.
We'll make more efforts. I mean, surely we'll take it up more, and we have been persistently after them. But I appreciate your point, sir, that this is creating a big crisis. Yes, sir.
Just wanted, Mr. Rajagopal, just wanted to add that even
Yes,
in
sir.
the meeting with the
Yes, sir.
parliamentary minister, we took up this point regarding the issues at Petrapol. So we're putting pressure on that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We will.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you.
Next.
Okay, sir. Anybody, Mr. Kannan, would you like to say a few words, sir? Kannan, sir.
At the moment, gentlemen, I think let's wait and see. I think it'll take 3 more months for the markets to
Yes, sir.
stabilize, I guess. So we're all taking a intelligent guess.
Yes,
So I
sir.
think it'll take at least 3 months, and maybe you should update this presentation and redo one sometime in August. Then it'll be more realistic.
Surely, sir. We'll do one. We'll try to do one. Try to get the commercial representatives of our embassies also. They are not coming on Zoom platform, but they'll come on some other platform we will take up. So we will do that, sir.
Anyway, it's a good effort. Keep it up. This is great.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Any other comments, sir? Because we seem to be running out of time. Otherwise, I'll ask Mr. Manoj Patodia to propose a vote of thanks.
No, I'd like to add something.
Yes, please.
I think it's very imperative to impress the government that the economy has to open up sooner than later.
Yeah.
Otherwise, a lot of opportunities will be lost and trade will get diverted from India to other markets.
Right, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
that
That point is
effort
very
should
well
be met. Yeah.
Right, sir.
Mr. Jalan, we fully understand the situation. I mean, it's a lot of pressure is being put on the government. A lot of representations are being made, and we will continue to do it.
Yeah, the made-up committee was very strong of this view.
Yes.
And
I
to
mean,
look at new developments.
Yeah, all sectors
That's
are,
what came out from our meeting yesterday.
Before we go on to Manoj for the vote of thanks, I just want to say that it was his idea to have this meeting today. So, and we will try and have it as frequently as it is necessary. Manoj, please go ahead.
It's always a teamwork, Chairman, not a single. So it's we discussed together and we put it in place. And I must say that the Chairman immediately said that we must do it right away. And I see the team did a wonderful job. So coming back, Chairman, friends, and the team Texposil, it gives me a immense pleasure to propose a vote of thanks for this important seminar on development in major markets during COVID. During these challenging times, while most of us are working from home, I must thank our team Texposil, who have put together a very remarkable presentation. And after speaking to so many buyers and other peoples in those countries and spoke in detail about each market, led by our ED, Dr. Siddhartha Rajgopal, and Mr. Ravindranathan, Mr. Shailesh, Mr. Ravi Kumar, and Mr. Rajesh for their good insight for all the markets. This will help us to plan our future sales. And I also would like to thank Mr. Prashant and Mr. Hajima Takashi from JIPA, who are now in Osaka and have joined us, and Mr. Amit Lat from Poland, who have shared their insights on their respective market, which will help us plan our sales for the future. Texposil, as Dr. Siddhartha Rajgopal said, will try to have these Zoom updates on a regular intervals on the markets, and the dates will be emailed to you soon. Friends, please have a safe weekend and please remain safe. Thank you.
Thank you.